Are some of Donald Trump's fans starting to turn to the reality of what could happen to the president? Now, this is in regards to the Mueller investigation. Now, following Michael Cohen's sentencing guidelines, some of Trump's more hardcore supporters are reportedly starting to question whether or not the administration could end up being in serious legal trouble. Now, already White House staff and Trump allies are experiencing what one official calls a quote, reality tremor, which is to say they're increasingly aware of President Trump's rising legal and political vulnerability. Now, it's also being reported by Axios that some top officials are much more attuned to the political fallout from the Mueller investigation and are growing anxious about Trump's reelection prospects, which is to say, if you're in trouble with the law, it make it a little bit more difficult to get reelected. That said, on the outside, some hardcore Trump allies, who have mostly accepted his denials about the Mueller investigation, have been rattled by the specificity of Friday night's revelations by the special counsel and by federal prosecutors. Interesting. Now, one Trump loyalist that they talked to said after a day of conversation with other hardcore Make America Great Again online influencers, quote, these are the people that are most predisposed to believing the witch hunt rhetoric. But they are now expressing real concerns about the investigation. Even these diehards, quote, start looking at the legal stuff and have a hard time dismissing it all. Now, Trump himself immediately dismisses all of it. Oh, it's a witch hunt. It's 17 or 12 or 14 or 22 angry Democrats. I don't know what number he's going to come up with next. But that's how he's described this. Oh, it's the Mueller and the Democrats. They're after me. They're going to come after me for anything, even a private transaction between me and Stormy Daniels. Or more specifically, paying off Cohen to set up a shell company to pay off Stormy Daniels right before an election, which would appear to be a campaign finance violation, right? So now, looking at this and looking how detailed the Mueller reports are, you got people that are like, ooh, this is really hard to ignore. It appears that the president might be a criminal. I know, it's sort of shocking to find out that somebody who also ran a fake university that took people's money also happens to be a crook when he gets into office. Shocker. I know. But stay with me here, right? I mean, who else could have known? Well, pretty much everybody that was paying attention. It may shock you to know, though, interestingly enough, that I'm not the biggest fan of Robert Mueller. Well, now, wait a minute. Whoa, I talk about the Mueller investigation all the time. You might think I'm one of the Mueller's biggest fans. No. Here's the thing. He's a Republican. He was actually involved in the Iraq War and covering for it. And he is a so-called resistance hero beloved by people like Neera Tanden and the DNC establishment. People that I'm not in favor of, right? But here's the thing. I'm actually looking at the facts and not letting my personal objections to his specific ideology to cloud my judgment on his work. And looking at his work, it has been extremely thorough. His actions on this case speak for themselves. You have 4 guilty pleas already, right? Over 50 indictments, an incredibly professional team who were able to get Trump's personal lawyer and fixer for decades to flip on him. That is incredibly impressive. We've basically been watching in real time the FBI take apart piece by piece a criminal organization. Amazing, right? And he's not even close to being done. But there's more. According to that Trump loyalist, I think the Southern District of New York, where prosecutors said Trump directed Michael Cohen to make hush money payments to women, has changed people's perceptions. That's viewed as a greater potential threat to Trump directly than Mueller. Collusion is still met with eye rolls. And of course, I'm not exactly surprised. Again, collusion is something that here on the left, a lot of fellow commentators are saying that's not the big deal. No, if they go after just collusion, then you're going to skip all sorts of other things and probably not nail Trump on it. And the thing is I agree with that. You're not going to get Trump on collusion. You are going to get him with financial crimes and money laundering. So if he's laundered money for the Russians, well, then you got him, right? And there are some very interesting transactions that they are probably looking at. If someone like me can point them out, then it's almost certain that Mueller himself and the Southern District of New York, other prosecutors, other investigators, are actually looking into these things, right? And not only that, but what we saw from Cohen being directed to break campaign finance laws on behalf of Trump and the organization. So now, what makes this more believable in Trump's world, by the way, is his explanations. Now, Trump's not a very smart guy. He's not a very stable genius, right? So him trying to explain away hush money payments to a porn star as a private transaction that's completely illegal isn't working anymore. Because at least people know the law. They know that you're not supposed to pay off in hush money porn stars right before an election. Because they know that, well, man, that's obviously he did that to make sure that that didn't come out before the election because it might have made him look bad. Now, I'm not saying that Trump fans would have been like, oh, no, I'm not voting for him based on that. Come on, this happened after the tapes where he said, basically admitted that he grabs women by the genitals without basically asking, without permission, right? So he grabs women. So would this from some? Probably not. So he could have been out there and saying, you know what? I probably didn't even have to pay that money. But his denials, first his lies, then his denials about it. And then when it came out that it actually had happened, he's like, oh yeah, well, you know what? It turns out it is true, but it's not actually against the law. So haha. Come on. Even the most diehard Trump supporter can look at that and go, oof. Jesus, what is he doing? Why is he doing this? Why is he constantly lying? But you have to understand, Donald Trump, that's all he does. He is a serial liar. He lies all the time. Let me give you an example here on one of his ridiculous legal explanations. So we'll go to that smoking gun tweet that he tweeted out yesterday. No smoking gun, no collusion. That's because there was no collusion. So now the Dems go to a simple private transaction, wrongly call it a campaign contribution. But it was a transaction that Cohen had paid Stormy Daniels through a shell company and then was paid back by the Trump organization right before an election. I'm just saying. Not only that, but he continues, which it was not, but it was. But even if it was, it's a civil case like Obama's, but it was done correctly by a lawyer, and there would not even be a fine. But if the lawyer messed up, lawyer's liability if he made a mistake, not me. Cohen just trying to get a sentence reduced. Witch hunt. Those are the ramblings of a madman. Who can take that seriously? Even if you support, the wall or support President Trump's policies, you can't listen to that and be like, oh yeah, no, that dude totally makes 100% sense and he's not crazy at all. Come on, man. Look, so now apparently some Trump diehards are like, I support you, but man, you're stupid. This is ridiculous. You have basically been caught giving campaign contributions. Just own up to it, right? Now, it's not in the investigations where he's losing some people as well. I've read countless articles where some of his broken promises are, well, pissing people off, right? For example, protecting jobs in coal. Well, coal is dying. The coal industry itself cannot be saved. And the coal industry has what? About 60 to 70,000 workers. The solar industry, by comparison, has over 300,000 jobs. And you can definitely expand that. Whereas coal is now more expensive than getting wind energy. So it's actually cheaper and more efficient to go with renewables. And so President Trump, no matter what he does, he'll never be able to bring back the coal industry. That is a broken promise. Not only that, but you have auto manufacturing, right? Now, auto manufacturing is being outsourced. For example, recently I reported on GM laying off over 14,000 people. That's 14,300 people in shuttering plants in both Ohio and Michigan and moving the Chevy Blazer production to Mexico. Add in Carrier, who also laid off a bunch of people and moved somewhere else, Harley Davidson. Then you've got the news today with Verizon. Now, Verizon is announced that they're laying off 10,000 workers. But they say, oh, no, it's voluntary. We basically convinced 10,000 people to leave the company. That's 7% of their workforce. And this is after getting $4 billion in tax cuts from President Trump's tax legislation. So what? So we're not winning there on manufacturing. You've got steel tariffs that are incredibly high. That is also hurting the economy. You've got soybean tariffs. But hey, he's a tariff man. What are you going to do? He doesn't understand that it's not other countries that pay the tariffs. It's Americans that pay the tariffs. We end up paying that. And that's essentially a higher tax, a tax on us, on consumption, which is the obviously the most regressive kind. The stock market right now kind of imploding. Wages are stagnant. The deficit's going up. It's actually soaring, etc. So, yeah, he's not doing very well. Oh, I thought we were going to be winning here. What's going on here? Where's all the winning that we were promised? Oh, right. The only people that are winning right now are the donors, who are running away with billions of dollars in gigantic tax cuts. Well, way to go. But now he's losing Republican voters, is what I'm trying to say. And if he loses enough voters, which could be the case down the road a little bit longer, if he loses enough Republican voters, then eventually he's going to lose GOP members in Congress. Now, he hasn't lost them yet, even though it's been reported that a lot of them secretly hate the president because he's an idiot. If he loses enough support, though, if they lose enough support, which, look, let's be honest, this blue wave that happened, they lost over 40 seats in the House. And if, look, a lot of the districts, a lot of the places wouldn't have been gerrymandered to hell. And if it wouldn't have been Democrats defending a lot of seats in the Senate, well, then it is possible Democrats could have picked up the Senate as well. But they didn't. So now a lot of these Republicans are pretty worried about the re-election chances. So if it gets worse with voters, if Trump becomes more unpopular among Republicans, they'll drop him like a hot potato. And if Mueller's report is as bad as what people are expecting, oh boy, here it comes. Anything is possible at this point. Now, I'm not saying that impeachment or something is guaranteed. I don't know. But I do think the end game might be in sight when it comes to the Trump presidency. And again, that's my speculation, and that's me not knowing the details of the Mueller report. However, it looks like Trump world is concerned enough about that report to hit the panic button. And that, I think, is significant. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.